Let's talk about how I structured my content strategy before, during, and after my launch that helped me gain 500 followers and make $8,000 in 8 days. So there are 3 main phases that I want to talk to you guys about today and give you a breakdown of what my content looked like in each of those phases. We have the pre-launch, which happened in July. We have my during the launch, which happened the first 2 weeks in August. And then I have post-launch, which happened the second half of August into September. And what often happens is when a business owner is trying to launch a product, they think, okay, I'm just gonna post about it 1 or 2 times, or maybe have a week's worth of posts, and that's it. That's all that goes into the posting strategy, the content strategy, the overall campaign, but there is so much more that goes into it. So let's start off with my pre-launch content that I started to create in July. Yes, a whole month before I even decided to launch my product on social media. There were 5 key components that I used in this pre-launch phase to really entice my buyers and get them really excited for my upcoming product launch. So while I try and diversify my content, the first thing that I decided to do was like, okay, all right, it's time to kind of take a break. I definitely took a step back from YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn, and I wanted to focus most of my efforts on this new strategy on just TikTok and Instagram alone. This helped me really gear in on what I needed to do, and at the time, those were my 2 highest converting platforms. With TikTok, I have the reach, and with Instagram, I have the community. So those are the 2 platforms that I decided to really niche down on and focus my strategy in. Then the next tangible thing that I did is, luckily, we got pinned posts on Instagram at that time. So I had so much real estate, those top 3 posts when you go to my Instagram profile, and I decided to create 3 very strategic carousels that would stay at the top of my profile for the duration of launch. They basically stayed up there for about a month and a half, and each one of them tackled a different pain point or different question that my audience might have. And the cool part about it is I made it look kind of seamless. It almost looked like a billboard at the top of my profile, but each of those different carousels would talk about what the course is about, who the course is for. One carousel even detailed out my launch campaign so that people could see exactly what to expect. Basically, I told them, hey, here's the challenge. This is when I'm gonna go live. This is when the cart's open. This is when the cart closes. And what I noticed with those, while they weren't the most highest engaged posts ever, people continuously came back to those throughout that month and a half. And I noticed that they did generate quite a few clicks to my website. I looked at the analytics behind it and did find that most people were coming from those top 3 posts. There were a couple of different things that I did throughout this pre-launch phase in July. I had that very, very promotional content that really drew people into my challenge. I had this 5-day challenge that was the opener to my course. It was a free 5-day content repurposing challenge. I had a goal of getting 200 signups, which I hit and exceeded. Then to have those people go through my funnel and basically convert into buying my course. Now, I had to promote that free challenge. And in order to do so, I basically was telling people the behind the scenes of this is why you should be content repurposing. Here's how you kind of do it. If you want to learn more, join my free challenge. So I had content that would target the pain points that the challenge would be addressing. And talking about pain points, I also started to create a ton of content that my ideal customers would resonate with if I thought they might be a good fit for the course. So I started to talk about, my Airtable system setup and how it saved me so much time. And I started to really dive into me being a type A business owner. And this was a course for type B business owners that maybe love creating content. You just don't quite have the system for it yet. So I started to create fun and engaging content that started to address those pain points. I did this before even launching the course to really get people geared up and ready to make a purchase from me. And the last component of this pre-launch phase, while I created this course over the course of 6 months, I didn't share any big behind the scenes until the last couple of weeks. I decided that I wanted to work on this thing slowly. It honestly sat in my Google Drive for a really long time. I just wasn't at the phase in my business, or I just didn't want to share it just yet. Didn't know when I was going to come out with it. It was kind of a launch that I was like, let's just get it out there. Let's just have this happen. So I didn't share any behind the scenes of the actual product development until about 2 weeks before. So I told people I had so many tech issues with Kajabi, which is where I host my course. But what I did is I shared those insights with people so they kind of felt like they were a part of the course creation. Now, what I do recommend for you to do, here's a hot tip, make sure you're bringing your audience along in that product development, in that research stage. Set up your camera, set up your phone, and just do time lapses or show behind the scenes of how you created your product. People absolutely love that and they're more enticed to buy later on. Now, since I didn't do that, I again just dropped all my pain points, like what was going on, and people really resonated with it. And I had some really amazing conversations in the DMs. Some of those people ended up purchasing the course because they felt like they were a part of what was going on. So now moving into the second phase, my actual launch content. Now, obviously, I've already told you guys this. I had a 5-day repurposing challenge that I actually did along with the challengers, the people who signed up for it. I gave them prompts each and every day and I actually followed them myself, which was super fun because not only was I able to kind of do a show and tell, I was then able to share results. I gave people examples and ideas, but then whenever they participated, I was able to then share their reels or their content or whatever they decided to post. I was able to then share it on my platform, tag them, give them a little bit of clout, and also provide results for people who maybe didn't sign up for the challenge or they were thinking about the course and they're like, okay, we have some results, we see what she's doing, maybe this is right for me. Now, I decided to go with a very different strategy than I have done in previous launches, and I really wanted to kick up the frequency of how much I was posting. I was really testing out a bunch of different strategies here. I typically like to post once per day in the feed of some sorts, whether it's a carousel, a reel, or just a feed post, and then I try and do stories whenever I can. I like to say once a day, but don't always get to it. But during this launch phase, I was posting multiple times throughout the day, both in stories, in my feed, and on TikTok. So the launch phase started at the very beginning of August when my challenge kicked off. Then when the cart was open, which was for approximately 8 days, basically what I did is throughout those 8 days of the actual campaign, I was posting a minimum of twice per day. And now I have to give credit where credit is due. I decided to combine not only strategies that I've learned throughout the course of my career, but also using templates and resources from some of my favorite creators in the industry, some of the people that I look up to. So for all of my campaigns for the last 2 years, I have used Your Social Team's 8-day campaign model. I love using her strategy because she gives you Canva templates, caption templates. She has tested this. It is a tried and true campaign template that you can like plug and play, and it has generated so many sales for my business and so many other businesses out there. So with her 8-day campaign, obviously I can't give away the goods of that, but you guys can definitely purchase it at the link below. It is so worth it, and I promise you, once you do it one time, it's just like a rinse and repeat strategy. I've used the exact same campaign a couple of times throughout the year for other products that I have. So basically her campaign really targets each and every day, attacking different pain points through different mediums on Instagram. Some days it's really heavy hitting carousels that really talk about the product, and some days they are just reels that are a little bit more comical or have memes, but each of those posts are salesy in their own aspect to really help you drive sales to whatever you're launching or selling for that 8-day duration. Now here's where I decided to switch things up. Since I wanted to increase the frequency of my posts and try out a couple of different things, I combined, again, 2 of my other very favorite creators in the Instagram space. I had recently learned of a strategy from Vix Meldrew, and she talked about addressing the 6 typical questions: the who, what, why, where, when, and how. Yeah, I think I got all of them. So basically I created a reel talking about the content system, which is the product I was launching, and I addressed each of those questions. I talked about who the content system was for. I talked about what the content system is. I talked about when they could purchase the content system, but I basically took all of those questions and I answered them in a really fun reel. And how I did that, I used an additional resource of the Reels report by Laura of B Squared Social. Now, listen, I love a good trending sound, and I really wanted to make those reels feel organic and natural. Selling, yes, but also trending, yes. I wanted people to not feel like super sold to, but then have a call to action either at the end of the video or at the end of the caption to really address what the content system was, who it's for, all of those things. I wanted to also kind of spark engagement and try and grow my audience throughout this campaign period, because what often happens when you are in a launch phase or in a promotional phase, doing a campaign, launching a new product, having a sale, you typically see a downturn in engagement. You may lose some followers, or you're definitely not going to see an increase in followers. And I kind of wanted to flip the narrative for this particular situation since I was selling a content system. I wanted to see if I could kind of switch the analytics around and make sure that I was growing my audience and keeping up my engagement rate. So with all of that combined, I had 39 unique pieces of content over a 2-week duration, not including like the in the moment stories that I was posting. Sometimes I did some in the moment lives and things like that, but this 39 pieces of content in 2 weeks. I don't recommend this for everybody. I'm not gonna lie, it was very intense. It was something that really helped me not only generate the sales that I needed, but I also was able to grow 500 followers in that time due to some of those reels really catching some virality and really helping people come to my Instagram and TikTok profiles. And lastly, I want to talk to you guys about the post-launch phase. This is a phase that often gets skipped over and people don't think about it as part of their launch strategy. Now, I don't dedicate as much time and energy and resources into the post-launch phase as I probably should, but there are some key components that you're going to want to tackle. You don't want to leave people hanging and high and dry. Again, what often happens is our energy goes so up during a launch, you get so busy and overwhelmed, and afterwards you kind of crash and you're like, I'm done. I don't want to be on social media. I just went through a launch and I am exhausted. So obviously I had about a month and a half of this pre-launch phase and this launch phase. So I put a hold on brand partnerships. That is part of my overall, not only income, but content strategy. So what I decided to do is I was very honest with the brands I was working with. I was like, hey, I'm currently in this season of promotional launch content. It's not a great fit right now, but I would love to collaborate after my launch is over. So what I did is I kind of pushed some of those partnerships till afterwards. And it was a fun way to show off new products and new software. I did a campaign with both Later and Flipstick that kind of correlated to what I was teaching inside of the content system, or it kind of correlated to some of the content I had been posting over the last month and a half. So that way, you know, again, it was just another little boost in income. I made some of my brand partners happy, and it was just kind of a mutually beneficial collaboration between everybody. And then this is where I think during my next launch phase, I would still like to answer some more questions. I did do some of that in Instagram stories and a little bit on the feed, but I think next time I want to be able to launch this product and really talk to people afterwards. I want to address the people who maybe had objections or hesitations and really kind of gear them up and get them excited for the next launch phase, or to maybe make a purchase afterwards from another one of my products or book a one-on-one with me or something like that. I definitely did skip that this launch phase. So I do recommend in that post-launch season that you still talk to those customers, whether they purchased from you or whether they didn't. Instead, just with the timeline of things, I actually took kind of more of a personal content approach since I was coming up to my 30th birthday. I had so many things going on, and I decided to really put out more personal content for those last 2 weeks of August. Really didn't focus too heavily on giving away tips and tricks and things like that. I decided to put out more of those relatability type of posts, those trust type of posts where I can bring in my audience, be like, hey, here's who I am, here's some fun things going on. And that was just fun content for me to create, because in all honesty, the entire launch campaign was so overwhelming and consuming and exhausting that I did actually need the break. And that's what I did. After I did the personal content, I decided to take a 2-week break in September and just chill out and not post a ton of content. I did hear from some people who are like, where'd you go? I was like, hey, I'm coming back, no worries. Just know that you are also allowed to take a break in whatever form or capacity that you want to. Once I came back from that break, I really had this newfound confidence, and I wanted to take what I was teaching inside of the content system and really take it to another level and show people that I practice what I preach. And I basically told people, here's my new content strategy for Instagram. And I really started talking about that and gearing people up for my 2023 content strategy. And I'm starting to allude to that so that in the new year, when I do a new launch of the content system, people are already used to seeing this from me. I've been talking about it for the last couple of months. And basically what I'm doing is the concepts that I teach inside of that course, I am taking and doing it in my own business on a much deeper level. So then I can take what I'm doing in my own business and continue to teach the content system and really build up that course and make it even more robust. But then I also have a little bit of social proof, like, hey, this is what I've been doing for the last couple of months. Here's how I've added some new modules into the course, and here, make a purchase when I decide in Q1 to relaunch the content system. So at this point in the video, you guys are probably like, okay, Amber, that's so much. Well, yes, that's kind of what happens during a launch. Content strategy can get very, very complex, but just remember, you do need to have a pre-launch phase, a launch phase, and a post-launch phase, and making sure that each of those phases have their own strategy and their own approach. You don't have to be as robust as I am, but just know that you can take any pieces of the strategy and combine them and mix them together to really target your buyer and make sure that your launch is successful. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.